Hey guys, DC Network here, coming at you with another video. I've been thinking about Cartoon Network's recent history, its recent past, and how over the past decade or so, the whole trajectory that Cartoon Network has been on has really been derailed by the mergers that have happened with Warner Brothers, Warner Media, and Warner Brothers Discovery, respectively. But before we get into that topic, I just wanted to announce, if you guys haven't seen already, I recently relaunched my second channel, Trainer DC, where I'm making a lot of Pokemon videos covering the new game that is coming in Pokemon Legends Z to A. If you guys haven't checked it out, I'll leave a card above and I'll leave a link in the description and comment section below. Please check it out. Be sure to subscribe because there's a lot of cool content that's coming there and I'm really trying to grow that channel as well. But back into today's topic regarding Cartoon Network. If you look at Cartoon Network just throughout its entire history, right, everybody really regards the beginnings of Cartoon Network and then the mid 2000s to early 2010s as like the golden era for the channel. It really depends on who you talk to, but most people would agree that the Jim Samples era of Cartoon Network was peak Cartoon Network. A lot of people like Betty Cohen's era as well, and Stu Snyder's era is either loved or hated depending on who you speak to. But I have noticed that regarding Stu Snyder as the president of Cartoon Network, it seems like a lot of people are actually starting to turn around to him, realizing that there were actually a lot of great shows during that era. Yes, live action was a thing on Cartoon Network, but if you take that out of the picture and look at the quality and quantity of shows that we were getting, it was really good. But nevertheless, things started to go downhill obviously for Cartoon Network when Stu Snyder was fired, I believe in 2013 or 2014, and then Christina Miller took over in 2014. And obviously since that happened, the network went downhill after that. And why is that? Is Christina Miller solely to blame for Cartoon Network's downfall? And no, I don't think she is solely to blame. I think that yes, Christina Miller played a huge factor in Cartoon Network's downfall. If you look at the time at which she took over, that's really when Cartoon Network started to prioritize comedies over everything else. In the Stu Snyder era of Cartoon Network, there was a big reliance on action shows. Really, if you look at Cartoon Network throughout its history, it's always had a pretty good balance of series, whether it be in Betty Cohen or Jim Samples eras, and even with Stu Snyder's as well. But there was definitely a bigger reliance on action series while Stu Snyder was the president. Obviously, when Christina Miller took over, she removed action completely from the channel once Ben 10 Omniverse, the last action show on Cartoon Network, got canceled, and we saw the surgence, I should say, in comedies, and Cartoon Network essentially becoming Comedy Central for kids, but just it wasn't good and wasn't funny. But nevertheless, if you look at what also was happening around that time as well, Christina Miller took over, but also there was a merger or an acquisition, I should say, that was happening with Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers was being sold to AT&T. AT&T bought out the company and rebranded it to Warner Media, and at this point in time, I remember thinking, oh, this might be a good thing. Maybe Cartoon Network will go back on the right trajectory and we'll start to see a lot of good shows and a lot of unique series come to the channel, and boy was I ever wrong. I noticed once the Warner Media acquisition happened that really Cartoon Network wasn't a priority for them, and quite frankly, it seemed like it was an afterthought at times. Really, it seemed like Warner Media's big thing that they were trying to push was streaming and getting Warner Brothers properties into this digital space. Even Christina Miller, I remember listening to interviews with her back in the day, and she was discussing how the Cartoon Network app needs to become a bigger factor in Cartoon Network's portfolio. And obviously, if you remember at that point in time, a lot of the new episodes for series were premiering on the Cartoon Network app before they even came to Cartoon Network. It was like you'd see it on the Cartoon Network app 2 to 3 days, maybe even a week before it premiered on TV. And this was all the priority when AT&T owned Warner Brothers and they were Warner Media. They really wanted to focus heavy on digital. If you look at that time frame, that's when they kind of rebranded Boomerang into an app essentially. They made Boomerang into the Boomerang app and tried to sell it to parents for their kids. Anyways, as the 2010s passed, I think that AT&T, Warner Media, they started to see the error of their ways when it came to Cartoon Network. They fired Christina Miller. They took a year to basically decide what direction they wanted to take Cartoon Network in, because if you remember, Michael Owaleen was actually the interim president of Cartoon Network for 1 year's time until they went out and hired Tom Asheen. And Tom Asheen obviously had this grand vision for Cartoon Network, a vision that I don't think would have gone over too well because he wanted to turn it into a Disney competitor, having a live action element, a kids element, a preschool element, combining that all together to basically be, like I said, the rival to Disney, which again, I don't think that would have gone over too well if it actually came to fruition. fruition, but that never did come to fruition. And why is that? That is because during Tom Asheen's reign as Cartoon Network president, another merger happened. This time, Warner Brothers Discovery happened. Discovery merged with Warner Media to form Warner Brothers Discovery, and this again derailed Cartoon Network's plans. What happened then? What happened when this merger happened? Well, this time they decided to clean house. Tom Asheen was out. Michael Ohlin was in as president of Cartoon Network. Tom Asheen's shows that he had greenlit are out. Pretty much they're at a blank slate, but the difference is this time around, at least with AT&T, I feel like they at least tried a little bit. Even though it was an afterthought, they at least did put resources and money into Cartoon Network to make new shows and to just keep the network alive, even though it wasn't flourishing like it was under the reign of Stu Snyder, Jim Samples, or Betty Cohen. But at least they tried a little bit, right? Warner Brothers Discovery, to me, their big issue is, well, Michael Ohlin is the head, right? And I don't think he is doing anything wrong, so to speak. I really do think he's a good choice to lead Cartoon Network. I just feel like his hands are tied behind his back. He can only do whatever Warner Brothers Discovery allows him to do. He can't just pull up a $10 million check all of a sudden to invest it in some new properties and new creators. He doesn't have the resources to do that. I feel like with Warner Brothers Discovery, the issue is just that they're in such disarray because of their financial situation, and just in general, they're just a complete and utter mess, it seems, at least from the outside looking in. And there's a lot of industry chatter about them, and even they're being looked into by government antitrust agencies because of all the tax write-offs they had from all the show cancellations that they've done. As a whole, their corporation is a mess right now, right? They're just trying to clean up their house, essentially. They're trying to clean up their company and make it, a flourishing brand once again, like Warner Brothers used to be for, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. They're trying to clean all that up, and I feel like Cartoon Network is being lost in that. Obviously, their vision for the future of animation within Warner Brothers Discovery is young adult / adult animated content, hence the reason why Adult Swim is getting this big reliance and this big promotion that we've been seeing, and it's taking over Cartoon Network. That's their vision for it. I don't know how long that's going to last for, because it's a matter of how long until somebody else takes this company over, right? Because as I've discussed in this video, pretty much the mergers that have happened, all of these mergers, whether it be AT&T buying them or Discovery merging with Warner Media, they've pretty much derailed the trajectory that Cartoon Network was on, for better or for worse. We saw that all of a sudden they were relying heavily on digital content, on comedies when AT&T took over. Then finally AT&T realized, we're handling this wrong. Warner Media, we're not doing a good job with Cartoon Network. Let's fix it. Let's have it be a rival to Disney. Although I don't think that was a good idea, at least they were trying, but then that all got derailed by Warner Brothers Discovery happening, by that new merger happening. So it's really a shame. It just kind of goes to show you that despite how many good people are working on these properties, are working on these shows, are running the network, they're kind of just at the will of the higher-ups, at the will of the executives that run the parent company. Whatever they want is whatever's going to happen. And if a sale or a merger or an acquisition is something that they think is going to be better for the future of the company, for the longevity of the brand Warner Brothers, then that's going to happen. And once that happens, everything else gets thrown out the window and things start from scratch. And unfortunately, so far with Warner Brothers Discovery, starting from scratch, starting from that blank slate, hasn't really been that good. They haven't really done much of anything. At least AT&T tried. Anyways, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about all of this. What do you guys think about the mergers that have happened over the past decade plus, kind of destroying Cartoon Network, really, if you think of it? It's a shell of its former self. It was this powerhouse in the animation space throughout its entire history up until the mid-2010s when it all went downhill once AT&T bought Warner Brothers. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this from DC Network. Be sure to check out my Pokemon channel, Trainer DC, as well. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.